Hey everyone and welcome to our channel. It's that time of the year when we do an overview of the BigPicture app. Now 2024 was a good year for BigPicture. The BigPicture team has introduced several improvements or even major improvements that I really think make this app even better, although it is not a secret that we do think that this is definitely one of the top solutions for project and portfolio management available within the Atlassian ecosystem. It's worth mentioning, picking the best solution is not an easy task. There are other solutions available on the marketplace, and as you might expect, they offer plenty of features to comply with your project and portfolio management frameworks. Now there are some main differences between the top solutions on the marketplace, so if you need a helping hand to help you decide which solution will work best for you, feel free to reach out to us. We also offer other services such as trainings and implementation support, as well as what I think is the most important, we can advise you on which tool will work for you best. And such consultations are completely free. So don't hesitate, don't be shy, reach out to us and I'm sure we will be able to help you make the right decision. Now, when it comes to BigPicture, what is BigPicture? What does it do? What are the pros and cons of using this app? That's what we'll be talking about in this video, so stay till the end and also make sure to check out other videos available on our channel, as there is plenty of information out there which is more detailed compared to what we'll be covering today, as this is an overview of the app, so we won't be diving deep into all its features, rather focusing on the benefits of using it as well as the newly available things that were released in the previous year. So what is BigPicture? BigPicture is a project and portfolio management app for Jira Cloud and Jira Data Center. What is important to mention is that it has two versions, the standard one as well as an enterprise version. The enterprise version is an expansion pack to the standard version, so you will actually need both to take advantage of all its features. To access the BigPicture app, all you need to do is hover over the apps drop down and select BigPicture. Once you do that, you will be redirected to the home screen. The home screen is the place that provides an overview. This is actually one of the BigPicture modules called Overview. It provides an overview of all your work that was added to BigPicture. What you see on the screen is a list of containers or boxes. Box is the term used by the BigPicture team that can represent all your different initiatives, whether these are projects such as a classical project or waterfall project or an agile project or an portfolio or a agile release train. All these can be managed using BigPicture. It's also worth mentioning that BigPicture provides different views for different roles within your organization. This could be the project managers, the executives, the resource managers, the project leads. Your teams can also use BigPicture to track their work, so everyone will find something interesting within this app. All the views within BigPicture are customizable. What do I mean by that? You can simply switch between different views, such as the timeline, such as the hierarchy view or a Kanban board, or you can adjust how the data is presented here. So right now I'm using the sample view. These are referred to as column views. Columns means that you can actually select what information available in Jira. There are different Jira fields, native and custom fields can be also added to this view, so that you can quickly see what is the progress of your projects, of your portfolios, as well as some other data that I added here, such as categories, so you can organize the list of your initiatives, or for example add a rank status to inform everybody about the status of the particular project or portfolio. Now this is something that is not really available within Jira, so BigPicture allows you to organize all your work using the already mentioned boxes. And as you can see on the screen, I do have a couple of different projects. I do have a couple of different portfolios. What I really like is that you can create a portfolio under a portfolio, so you can organize your work and quickly access your project or portfolio, or actually all your projects that you want to work with. Now this might be a little bit too much information in this single view, so you can use the column views and switch between the different available views that will focus on different areas, such as this financial view when it looks at the costs, the actual and estimated costs, the budgets, and so on and so forth. Or for example, time tracking view, which focuses on the time-based reports. It is worth mentioning that some of this data will be coming directly from Jira, so all the time estimates, these are Jira fields, so the data is synchronized with Jira. It's assuring that it's always up to date, and whenever your team updates their work, it will be reflected in this particular view. Like with other modules within the app, you can customize how this data is presented. So if you want to squeeze in more information or sort by the different criteria, this is also available. Now, another important thing are the templates used. I already mentioned that BigPicture supports different methodologies or frameworks. This basically means that the app is pre-configured for you. So for example, in case of a classical project, not all the BigPicture modules will be used. When I click on the Open Module button, you will see that not all modules are available. For example, there is no board module, which is more appropriate for the Agile release train or an Agile project. So in general, boxes allow you to organize all your work and provide this high-level report that you can use to quickly check whether your projects are on track and healthy or need your attention. Timeline view will also show you whether, for example, whether everything is going according to the plan. So as you can see, I do have this warning right here indicating that my new classic project had to be delayed a little bit or is delayed a little bit, and I'm using the portfolio box to actually track this deviation from the plan, and it is shown within this using this warning. So there are also features that will help you stay on track whether you are looking at the high level the projects, programs and portfolios, or looking at the task level. Like with other modules, there are also the filters here, so you can filter out unwanted information, filter by dates, filter by different fields that you are working with, or simply use the favorites filter and focus on the projects that you are most interested in. Now, when it comes to the overview module, there are not that many changes when it comes to features released in the previous year. However, there are some important differences, and one of them is that you can actually use the portfolios types to show aggregated data, which was not the case in the previous version. So right now I can open the portfolio view and, for example, see how my resources are utilized across the whole portfolio. Now, I will be talking about the resources module later on, so stay tuned, but I think this is a huge improvement compared to earlier versions. And there's another big thing here, also a completely new interface of the resources module. The overview module, when you select any of the boxes, it shows you all the lower level boxes that are attached to this particular portfolio in my case, so you can narrow the view and focus on a specific portfolio. You will simply see a portion of what you've seen in the previous screen, but the difference here is that you can customize this view and maybe select other different fields that you want to focus on, or generate a different report, more detailed compared to the home screen one. So let's go back to the home screen and let's see what other things BigPicture has to offer. Now there are these different buttons right here. There are the configuration screens. I won't be diving into the configuration in this video, but if you want to learn more, check out other videos available on our channel. And I will pick one of the projects, the classical project, and we will proceed to the gantt module. Now the gantt module is one of the most powerful modules available within BigPicture, and together with the resources module, it's a powerful combination that provides an in-depth view of your project timeline together with the resource utilization. So this is something that is really missing in Jira by itself. While you can view different time tracking data or create a report of the workload of your assignees, the cumulative information or a view is simply not available, and BigPicture does a great job in that case, but we will get to that shortly. So when it comes to the gantt module, it really consists of 2 or maybe 3 or actually even 4 main elements. You have a list of all your work items on the left hand side, the timeline with visualized tasks and their dependencies on the right hand side. It also includes a hierarchy. So this is a very simple example of a hierarchy. I will get to that shortly. But there are also a couple of hidden sections on this screen. So there will be the info bar that shows you, for example, overdue tasks. Definitely a great view showing you how much are they overdue. A list of milestones. So we can show the milestones, and we can also filter by milestones. So often we hear from our clients that their management is interested in the high level overview. They only want to track milestones. They're not really interested in these lower level items. So what you can do is simply filter out other information. And another important feature here is the critical path. Let's see if I have any tasks on my critical path. Yes, they are here. Now I can adjust this critical path a little bit. I'm using different types of dependencies, so not all the tasks are actually on a critical path. But when I use this as soon as possible mode, which reduces the gap between the tasks or the items that will affect the project's duration, will be highlighted. So that's definitely great to know and can be visualized on the screen. Something that I also think is very important, and it was added recently, is the change history. So very often when you're audited, you will want to explain why something was rescheduled. You want to investigate how this change affected other tasks. All this information will be available within the change history. So that's something new that a lot of BigPicture users were asking for, and it is now available. And one more recent improvement is the bulk change. So next to the tasks, you will see those checkboxes, and once you select them, you will be able to perform different actions and update them in bulk. That would include changing the assignee, the color, the end date, the start date, the status, or bulk assign it to a team. So again, this is something that will make you work way faster. Speaking of teams, there is a dedicated module for that. I will get to that shortly. However, with the latest version, you can also use Jira teams as compared to previous versions when you had to actually create a BigPicture team and you were not able to work with teams already created in Jira. With the latest version, this is not the case. So another great improvement from BigPicture. So let's have a look at other options here. These haven't really changed compared to previous versions. So you can work with Jira issues and BigPicture tasks. You can create BigPicture task templates, which are especially useful when you have a repeatable project structure, or you would simply like to try out different scenarios without sending notifications to your users, or you would like to, for example, book your resource or create a task representing a demand for a particular resource. You can organize data using different fields, just like in the overview module. there are different column views. You can decide what information is presented here. The tool is used not only for planning, but also to monitor the execution, so you will know exactly who is working on what's their status, and so on and so forth. And whenever your team members update an issue in Jira, whether they do it using BigPicture interface or Jira interface, all this information will be available and always up to date. Now there are different scheduling modes, so this is something that while Jira does to some extent, it works way better in BigPicture. It will reschedule all the linked issues. It will provide warnings in case there is something blocking your issue. So right now my parent task has a fixed end date, and as a result I can see that all these dependencies cause a conflict, as each of these tasks has to be completed one after the other. So BigPicture provides this information, and you can quickly identify and resolve the potential conflicts that were created. There are also other useful features such as baselines. There are reports related to baselines. Baselines, once created, will show the initial position of the task. If I try to move some of them, you will see the initial position is indicated with this bold line or the current baseline. With BigPicture Enterprise, you can create multiple baselines, so that's again a great improvement compared to the previous versions, but it does require BigPicture Enterprise. Now most of the fields, most of the information here is inline editable, so you can simply click on the field and update it when needed. When it comes to other very important features, you can also group your tasks by different fields. So for example, I would like to group by assignee. I don't have that many tasks assigned. I did create a group already. I have one task assigned to myself, and this will provide a different view focusing on specific team, specific team member, on specific priority. And what's also really great about these features is you can create multiple levels within this hierarchy. So if I would like to see all the issues that are assigned to me and then grouped by status, I can also do that, or by team and then by assignee, by team member, and then by status. Very important, very useful feature, a little bit more advanced compared to other options available within BigPicture. Now let me disable it. Let's proceed to the view options. Here you can change the layout, so just as we did in the previous view, you can squeeze in more data, so that's definitely great. Adjust the grid lines, which I personally really like, especially when moving tasks, when you want to be more precise and make sure that you update the dates exactly as needed, which might not be that simple or when the grid lines are not visible. Other than that, there are the baselines that we already covered, the period warnings, so something that I talked about earlier. This really depends on which scheduling mode you are currently using. When I click on the task, I can change the scheduling mode. So I'm right now using auto top down. Let me switch to manual so that the warnings show up. Now all the conflicts related to the created dependencies will resolve automatically for me. However, as a result, I also have this warning as my parent task's end date would change if I actually decide to go with this particular change. Now, you might not want to experiment on live data. That's why BigPicture provides scenario modes. And this is a very powerful feature that allows you to create different scenarios. We call it S1. And this way you will avoid the risk of notifying your users. They will not be surprised whether something changed to their tasks. I can undo these changes, or I can view the scenario history and not only decide whether I want to go with the change, or actually also how this change affected other tasks, as sometimes it might be difficult to assess how this change actually affected the whole schedule. Scenario mode is another enterprise feature. In the standard version it's limited. In the enterprise version there are no limits on the number of scenarios that you can create. There's also the progress, quite useful when you want to present your timelines and show the progress on the taskbar as compared to working with this list. Now I talked about the critical path, I talked about the overview, and the next thing is how you would like to present the data on the actual timeline. This is useful when you are presenting the timeline. So for example, you can decide how task data is presented, what data is presented, whether it is shown on the taskbar or next to it, or you can simply decide to hide it and focus on the start and end dates of your work items. Now you can also, let me disable maybe the previous features so that I can show you the next available option here, which is coloring by status or custom coloring. So you can right click on the task and simply change the color of the tasks if you want to use color coding to, for example, highlight specific types of issues. And remember what I said earlier about bulk change. So you can just simply select the tasks you want to change and bulk change the color. Alright, so what else can we have? What else do we have here? And there will be the different types of dependencies, and decide whether you want to show the actual links or collapse them or expand them. And one thing that I did mention earlier is the resources panel. So let me switch back to the essentials and assign some work to my colleagues. So as you can see, they already show up here. Now I see how my resources are utilized. Now there is a dedicated view for that called resources module, which provides more detailed information, but here it's nice to have it also just directly under your timeline. I can switch to, for example, monthly aggregation, and the color coding will indicate how my resources are utilized, whether they are underutilized or overutilized, which is indicated using the red color. And that definitely helps me with my planning. Although, as I mentioned, the resources module, which we'll be covering shortly, is more appropriate, provides more information. Using both of these views will definitely be a good idea. Speaking of changes to the previous versions, as I mentioned earlier, I can now use the Gantt module to show all the lower level tasks, projects in a single place. I don't have to create a separate box for that purpose. Right now I have all these different lower level boxes, my lower level portfolios shown here. I can narrow further to a specific portfolio. This way I will see all the projects within that portfolio. I can use the minimap to see all the tasks. There they are. And as I mentioned earlier, BigPicture actually allows you to create a totally custom hierarchy. So this is something that is quite limited within Jira Core. You will need to purchase Jira Premium to create levels above the epic. Although BigPicture does allow you to create a totally custom hierarchy with multiple levels above the epic. So here I have a group, I have a subgroup. Under this subgroup I have tasks and subtasks. If I want to create levels in between or below the subtasks, this is also doable. So definitely a great feature to work with. Other than that, you'll also have a set of filters here, so you can decide what information you want to focus on. You can combine the different filters, decide whether you want to show parent tasks or basic tasks. All these options are available, and I think that the coolest thing here is that you can actually combine all these different filters and make sure that you focus on the data that you're interested in. There are plenty of fields that you can add here, so almost all Jira fields will be available here. You can customize this view and make sure that your reports are as detailed as possible. One of the most important things when it comes to working with the Gantt is to get the right configuration of your Jira data across Jira projects and boxes, but also figure out the proper way of creating the hierarchy using the right structure builders, deciding which scheduling modes you should apply, or how to automate project data creation, how to easily follow the project execution, and many more. Having the best setup assures no friction, wide tool adoption, and quickly visible benefits of the new PPM environment. So if you don't want to waste time on failed experiments and discourage your team members before they can actually appreciate the alternative, reach out to us and we'll be happy to help you get the most out of BigPicture. The next view that we'll cover is the risks module. Now, risk management is very important. If you do that right, you'll reduce the probability of things going wrong, and using this module you can display all these risks on a matrix. Now let me adjust this matrix a little bit so that we have the high level risks in the top left corner. If you go to view, I would like to invert the probability, or let's go like this, right? So we have all the severe high probability and severe consequences in the top left corner. Now if I drag and drop a card here, and it will change its color. Working with the risk matrix is pretty straightforward. You want to make sure the resulting level of risk is on an acceptable level, and that will be somewhere starting from the middle of the matrix all the way to the low consequences as well as low probability. You don't need to worry about things going wrong. Even if they do, the impact will be quite low. Here it's your decision, depending on your risk appetite, whether you accept such a level of risk or not, and all the items color coded red definitely need your attention and need to be mitigated. Now this module offers two different views. This would be the table view, which is similar to what you've seen earlier. It's a list with inline editable fields, so you can assign the risk owner, you can decide what other fields will be added, for example your risk mitigation strategy, and you can also adjust how this data is presented. So you can customize this card and decide what information is shown on the different cards. Now, in my case, there is a due date for this risk, there is the owner, click on the card, update the related data. And what I always repeat when working with our clients, do the risk assessment first. So you should do it before you even start planning your timelines, adding tasks. Make sure that you have all the things that could go wrong under control so that you are ready when the risks occur. Now let's go to the next module, which is the teams module. There are different teams available in BigPicture. There will be the global teams that can be reused, that will be allocated to different projects, or local level teams. So in my case, all these teams are global, meaning that they are inherited. I created them once and I can reuse them. Teams consist of team members. Here you can control how their availability, what percentage of the time they'll be working for that particular team, for particular project. There's also this warning, as for Andrew, I have exceeded 100% of his time, meaning that his individual capacity is probably corrupted and allow me to assign more work than he can do during his 8-hour work time. The BigPicture will also show you that such things need your attention. That's definitely great. Teams, as I mentioned earlier, are created within BigPicture, and with the latest version you can actually also use the Jira teams to sync with BigPicture, which was not the option in the previous version. So that's definitely a great improvement, so you don't have to recreate this information in BigPicture. Now the next module that I think has changed the most compared to previous version is the resources module. There are actually two interfaces that you can access, the previous one and the new one, and I think that this is a great or best improvement so far. So what's so special about it? Well, first of all, compared to previous versions, you can now group by not only individuals but also other criteria such as projects, right? So, and skills. That was not the case in the earlier version. So you can still access whatever you could do earlier. This view provides a summary of all the work assignments to individual team members, to your assignees. So as you can see, I have a summary of all my resources. I know what's the total capacity, the total workload, so it doesn't look really well, at least in April 2025 up to mid of May. So let me collapse this. I can see who is working on what's their capacity, what's their workload, among other information. I can also switch to the Teams view. So this is great when you want to plan on a higher level, right? More strategic planning. What does this mean? Often when you plan in a longer term, you will not know who will be actually working on a specific task. What you will know is that a particular team will be working on it. So you can assign work to teams instead, and also not worry about the individual capacity of each of the team members. Rather just look at the team's capacity. BigPicture will tell you whether you have exceeded the total capacity, which takes into account all the non-working days that when your resources will not be available, and later on the team leader can distribute work across their team. However, when you forecast your resources or forecast the resource demand, there are other things that you need to take into account. So BigPicture not only shows you the actual utilization of your resources, but can also show the past utilization or the history data. It can show the information using different units, hours, man days, and percentage points. So all this is definitely great, but this is something that was already available in the previous version. Right now we can actually group by projects, and grouping by project is nice to have. So I have all the lower level projects. As you can see here, I have several projects in my portfolio. I can see how much of my resources were consumed by the different projects. That's definitely great, but what I really like most is that you can further group your work by, let's say, teams. And then I will see that 241 hours of the Jupyter team were consumed by this particular project number 4. But let's see something else. What if we reverse this? Now we can see the teams and the projects they are working on. So here it is a slightly different view, but even more informative, telling me if, for example, I need the team to focus more on another project, I will know exactly which tasks will be potentially affected. Also, I can further group by skills, so that's another thing that the new version of BigPicture offers. And one more improvement here, the extended timeline. Now I can show a yearly view compared to half year, which was the case in the previous version. Also in the side panel here, you'll have a backlog, and I have to admit that in the previous version, working with the tasks wasn't that straightforward. I had to click on the task, update the different fields, assign a skill. Right now, to assign a skill, all I need to do is just drag and drop or use this backlog, and I have a whole list of my work items where I can assign. I can change the estimates, I can select the skill, I can change the dates, I can change the description, and just drag and drop it to set the date. So that's definitely a great UX improvement, making my life and your life way easier. So the next module on our list is the board module, another powerful tool for your agile planning, whether you're doing a simple agile planning your work in sprints or iterations. That would be the tool for you. You will be using BigPicture slightly differently when the timeline will be actually the output of your planning. The Gantt can be also used as your project roadmap. It will be automatically generated for you. However, when it comes to the actual planning for your teams, when you want to have an overview of the different teams and dependencies between different iterations, different sprints, or different teams, cross-team dependencies, all this information will be available here as well. So it consists of two main parts: the actual board with your work items presented in form of cards connected by these lines, which are Jira links. They are color coded to show you whether the sequence is correct, and what you need to do is resolve the conflicts. You will also have the side panel or the info bar with your structured backlog and the list of your work items. Now this module works on two levels. So we have the planning interval, and on the lower level I'll have my iterations or sprints. So everything here syncs with sprints. When I move an item between iterations, it will move it to the next sprint on the Jira Scrum board. Depending on which box type or box template you use, the module will show you two levels. In case of the Scaled Agile framework, that would be the planning interval and an iteration. In case of a simpler Agile project, that would be only the iterations, but still you can navigate between the two or even more different levels within your box hierarchy. And I need to do a couple of things here. So I need to resolve all the conflicts make sure that there are no conflicting or incorrect dependencies. So let's try to resolve one of these conflicts, and the link here is gone. It is now moved to the dependency at risks that are within the same iteration, and this can be a little bit obscure, so let me collapse the dependencies. I can simply highlight the card to show all the dependencies. That makes my life way easier. I can decide how this information is presented, again what information is shown on the cards. Again, they are inline editable, so I can assign work. I can decide what are the swim lanes in that particular view. So for example, I want to focus on issues in progress or the issues that have not been started yet, or for example change to the priority view and make sure that all the issues with the highest priority are already addressed and resolved, or simply switch to the team member view compared to the teams and see who is working on what, right? So we'll see all the assigned work items to a particular resource together with their capacity indication, the allocated work versus the total capacity. Now there are also some built-in reports, quite simple reports for each of these swim lanes, for each of these cells actually. So for each iteration I know what is the progress, what is the actual work done by each team person, or depending on the priority as well, right? So it really depends on which information is presented within the swim lanes. Very popular module. A lot of our clients utilize this, whether you simply want to have an overview of your teams using different Scrum boards in a single place. Oftentimes it happens that we need to adjust this view a little bit, implement maybe another box for a longer period or a planning interval, or for example when some teams might be working in a longer planning interval, so they will be planning work at the upper level here, but still their work depends on other teams working in shorter sprints. So that's something that BigPicture also allows you to do. There are also warnings, and I mentioned that BigPicture does create an agile roadmap for you automatically. Everything your team does within Jira or within BigPicture can be also automatically placed on the timeline so that you create an agile roadmap. You can collapse all the data to the level of information you are interested in. Once you do your planning, there is another important thing that you need to do is to inform your stakeholders about your plans and make sure that the business part of your organization understands what the development teams are doing. That's one use case for the objectives module. Another would be objective-based planning, when you start with the objective and you want to make sure that all the work that your team does would help to achieve these objectives. In both cases, the objectives module can help you do that. It can also help you track all the different objectives, color code them whenever they are at risk, for example, track their planned business value and actual business values together with the progress assigned objectives, as well as link it to associated work or the tasks that will be needed to achieve a specific objective. So another powerful module. I don't recall any major improvements compared to last year, but does allow you to also create those visual reports and track your objectives using pie and bar charts. The last thing on our list for today, actually two things. That would be the reports. BigPicture does offer a reporting module with different types of reports. Now, if I want to add a new report, there are altogether 8 types of reports, starting with basic task reports. These are the guys that you see right here. Risk metrics reports, team dependencies. So I do have my team dependencies here. I do have a velocity chart, definitely great when you work with story points, when you utilize the board module. So it will tell you what is the velocity of your team so that you can adjust the capacity for your future iterations or sprints. The dependency reports show you whether there are any cross team dependencies, whether one team's work is dependent on other teams. And it's also worth making sure that these tasks are completed in the specified period of time so they do not impact other teams' work. There will be dependencies between the different program increments in that case, or different iterations. So again, another important report to make sure that the work in a previous time interval is completed so that the teams can start working on the next task within the next time interval, as well as some other reports for which I will need to go to the home screen. So we have the risk matrix showing me a cumulative list of all the risks across all the different programs, projects and portfolios that I've created. So when I click on it, I will see all the risks and that might not be potentially addressed yet. And the team dependencies, cross-team dependencies, again, summary of all the links, as well as plan delays, milestones and capacity reports. BigPicture also offers gadgets for your Jira dashboards. If you want to combine this information within Jira with BigPicture, you can also do that. Last two modules would be the calendar module, which shows a list of tasks on a specific date. So it's great if you want to plan your day, prepare for the next day and see only the tasks that should be completed by a specific date. You will also have a list of upcoming tasks here. In that case, well, not necessarily in this particular project. It seems that I have completed everything and it's time for coffee, but it also allows me to update my list of tasks, update my plans, show all the tasks. You don't really see everything and some of the tasks are hidden. Now the last thing I wanted to show you is the scope module. So scope module is something very similar to what we've already discussed. It's a list of issues just like on the Gantt chart. Now you can customize how the data is presented, what information is presented here, and inline edit it just like you did in all the different modules. So it's not only a list of issues, it's a structured list of issues, includes all the different reports, for example, time tracking reports, skill, status-based reports. All this information is available at a glance here so that you know exactly what's going on within your projects at every stage, at every level within the hierarchy. So that's it for this video, and I would like to mention one more time that if you need more information about BigPicture or other PPM tools available for Jira, feel free to reach out to us. The contact information is in the description of this video. We will be more than happy to help you figure out whether this tool is the right choice for you. We can also advise on how to optimize your current processes, as well as help you with implementing tools such as BigPicture, Structure, or the Tempo suite, and many more. We also offer trainings so that you and your team master the tool and take your project management to the next level. We'll be more than happy to assist you. Thank you for watching, and I'll be seeing you in the next video.